Curt White to introduce us now.
Okay, there you go. Scott, William, Dirk. The Scott and William part of it are former graduate students of this program. They were distinguished when they were here, but they've gotten even more distinguished since they've left. Little did I know that they were hypertextual. If I had known that when they were here, I would have beaten it out of them, but it has since become very clear that they're actually interested in this computer stuff and they're working on it secretly until they actually won an international award. It was too late and I couldn't complain about it. So at any rate, they secretly entered this international contest sponsored by AltX and what's the name of the London one?
Trace.
Trace in London, which is also on the web. The judge for the contest this year was Robert Coover, so no slouch as judge. And he chose their manuscript from out of how many? 150 hypertext novels. So in spite of the fact that I don't like what they're doing, I'm very proud of them. Actually, I find what they're doing very interesting, and I'm really looking forward to this. So I hope you guys enjoy it, and I hope all these crazy machines work. You guys need the lights off?
This is good. This is good for now.
Really?
Okay. We'll turn off the lights, but we're going to start with. Yeah, we want to thank everybody for being here that's here, and we want to do a little bit of that to the people who aren't. I did. All right. What we'd like to read first is some things from another site. This isn't actually hooked up to the internet because of the state of technology in Central Illinois. But we'd like to read from William's news poetry site first, and we can pass out the URL if you're interested in this. The idea of this is a poem a day until Y2K, having to do with the news in whatever tangential way. So I believe we'll start out with Dirk.
Oh, okay. I am the Cincinnati correspondent for news poetry, and the way I usually write my news poems is I go to that repository of journalism excellence, the Cincinnati Enquirer. It is so excellent, in fact, that I shudder whenever I pick it up, and I realize that I don't need to read the paper at all. All I need to do is read the headlines, because they have always distilled the essence of the story into just a very few words. But occasionally, I feel the need to expand on those headlines, and these are the poems that I come up with when I do that. The first headline comes from the Cincinnati Enquirer, January 30th, 1999, and it says, "Lab-grown bladders implanted into dogs." Lab-grown bladders implanted into dogs, and the poem. Sometimes a headline tells you all you need to know, or want to, except the dogs in question, some of whom survived 18 long months, were beagles. A moment of silence, I think, for these animals that are giving their lives in order that people in the future can pee more freely. Second headline, February 11th, 1999. France turns over reins to NASCAR. Today, the country of France became a subsidiary business concern controlled by NASCAR. Both parties praised the unprecedented linkage of a nation-state and a professional sports governing body. NASCAR officials were particularly pleased. "We're always looking for ways to expand our fan base. Controlling France will give us the perfect way to make inroads into the European market." French government spokesman would not give any explanation as to why France had decided to sell their sovereignty, though they mumbled something about having time, finally, to visit Euro Disney. NASCAR expressed some concern about the fact that the French apparently speak a different language, but told reporters, "Everyone loves our cars." My final headline comes from the February 9th, 1999 issue of, again, the Cincinnati Enquirer. "Appeal would be gamble for Tyson." Plans to make Mike Tyson appealing have been put on hold because no one could really know whether it would be worth the effort. Part of our problem, one handler noted, is that if Mike has any appeal now, it stems from his utter lack of appeal. If we make him appealing, we'll lose fans who find his lack of appeal appealing. And we don't know yet if we can make him appeal enough to the rest of the world to make up for that loss. Mike Tyson himself seems conflicted. Quote, Mike Tyson is going to do what Mike Tyson is going to do. Sometimes even Mike Tyson doesn't know what Mike Tyson is going to do, so we'll all just have to wait and find out what Mike Tyson is going to do and whether that will be appealing or not, you know? If the plan to give Tyson appeal goes forward, Tyson's handlers will first get him a spot on the Donnie and Marie show.
Here's a news poem from the 31st of January of this year. This was actually written during the blizzard that happened at the beginning of January, actually in a parking garage. Relentless as paperwork, I am lost and cannot find my ward. My preoccupied mind continually redistricting this blank map. Where is the grid beneath this tundra of unshoveled sidewalks? Where is the city salt for these locally owned businesses? Through unfamiliar alleyways, I leave tracks between fences where property owners sleep guarded by wary dogs I cannot name. There is a constellation described by certain points of this city: the bulletin board outside the co-op, the newspapers at the public library, the clock opposite, the mailboxes, median strips, plazas, brick streets and lampposts. I have set my course by these stars and wonder what, if any, statement you are prepared to make. Tonight you attended the meeting but did not speak, leaving me afterward to collect the shattered ruins of my briefcase. I was not always like this. You were the one from my dream, and you did not recognize me. I once wore angry t-shirts and was never without 1,000 signatures. All I could think about was military spending, global warming, and sex. Now the sense of this earth with which I once took joy in organic gardening is in peril. I recycle diligently, but no longer own a tent or backpack. Friendships stiffen into negotiations. I hear my name murmured in the mall music. Blank newspapers blow through the decrepit business district of my heart, where there is no one to subsidize a loan for renovation. Where are you, my would-be constituent? I spoke as well as I could, and I tipped the bartender what I had calculated to be a living wage, but there is no satisfaction in any of it. I clamber through these, your snowdrifts, your unplowed piles of frozen teardrops, a lost citizen.
Before the esteemed gathering. News poem, 19 April 1999. Still life with Albanian refugee. Finally almost dead, she said as she scratched at the dirt. I'm finally almost dead. I made the decision that it was a military vehicle and I dispatched 2 laser-guided bombs, he said, destroying the target. She gags, mouth dry, the warmth of her blood flooding out. It hurts, she says, but life is like that, she says, and I never knew what was down that road. Life is like this, and then it ends. Soon it ends. That was a decision that I made, he says. I circled twice, and I made that judgment. We could not stand idly by, he says, as he wipes away a tear. He's speaking to a gathering of newspaper editors, and he's not afraid to cry. He says something about standing by the troops. He knows about people standing by. Meanwhile, we're playing out our fantasies, falling in and out of love, dancing with our own fears. Her hand is twitching. She thinks about how they smashed all the jars of pickles and preserves before they set fire to the cottage. She wishes they had not done that. Her son's eyes went hollow before they took him away. She's finally almost dead, she thinks. I'm finally almost dead. He's sitting alone at the bar, cold bottle of Bud in his hand. His buddies are avoiding him. His thumb itches and he feels cold. It was a video game back in training. We couldn't just throw up our hands, he says. Something needed to be done. Civilian casualties are inevitable. This should maybe end with a phrase about flowers, or something about the grace and resilience of humanity. But she's lying there, dirt on her tongue, a body amid bodies, passing. She's finally almost dead. She's finally almost dead.
Somebody get the what?
So this is the, that was the serious part. This is the silly hypertext novel that we wrote. The Unknown is a collaborative hypertext novel. For us as writers, this project began as a conscious exploration of two modes of writing which we didn't understand: hypertext and collaboration.
Our initial intention was to promote a print anthology of our best fiction, prose, poetry, and drama by telling the story of the book tour we would go on in support of the then non-existent book.
Our motto at the time, promotion before dignity.
Content preceded structure, which initially evolved organically. As we created text, however, we realized two things.
A, that hypertext is necessarily kinetic, a story that the reader rides.
And B, that we were generating different kinds of material and that some taxonomy was necessary to help readers navigate through the novel.
To this end, we adopted a metaphor from the Chicago Transit Authority's subway map and began to place the material on different lines.
The Red Line is a sickeningly decadent, publicity-driven hypertext novel that describes the aforementioned book tour.
The purple line is metafictional bullshit, which hypertext almost inevitably engenders.
The blue line is a collection of documentary materials about our real-life adventures.
The orange line is a collection of correspondence between the unknown and others written over a long period of time.
The brown line is a collection of related image equal text projects, including Katie Gilligan's watercolor diary.
The green line is a place where readers can find live readings of the unknown in real audio.
Because the essence of hypertext is a collaboration between the reader navigator and the authors, in addition to the in-text hyperlinks and the just described lines, we elected to include three other modes of navigation.
An image map of locations in the United States we visited on our alleged book tour,
A list of independent bookstores where we gave readings on our book tour,
and a list of people who appear as characters in the unknown. We'd like to do a, okay, that's a line from Braun. We don't need that line. So now we're going to begin with trip.htm or
No,
will.htm.
The way we do our collaborative readings is every time we pass over a link, we ring this bell. At the end of the page, we invite anyone from the audience to call out a link that interests them, and in this manner embarrass us by making us read things we hadn't planned on reading out loud.
Usually those letters at the start are letters, but it's on the laptop.
One of the many perils we face as hypertext authors. So here it is. Where the story begins is that we're creative writers. We write books. We can't help it. It is arguably not our fault that this is the only thing we are good at. So imagine getting this job, creative writer, and you go to the address and then you discover that it's a haunted, decrepit mansion. It's a really unpleasant place and there are ghosts, none of whom will tell you what your job responsibilities are. They shriek at you and recite T.S. Eliot. It's like this haunted mansion is so bad, the ghosts don't even know why they haunt it. And your job is to go there and die. To die hunched at a desk with a machine, by killing yourself slowly and smearing your every drop of blood over so many miles of clean white pages, ruining them forever. And you call your parents and you tell them that you got a job.
Where would you like to go next?
Forever.
Wherever it is.
There's always more, or there's more, always more of love and truth.
That's when you look at yourself in the mirror. It can be a physical mirror, and it can be a mirror in your head, and it can be a pane of glass, and it can be a puddle after weeks of rain. You think, that wasn't love, or that was love, or that is lost love, or I'll never feel that way again, or I wish I could do it over again even though it hurt me, motherfucking hurt me, or let me call this beloved, let me call that beloved, or what I wouldn't do to feel again, or it gets harder as you age. One beloved said to another beloved, it gets harder. But as one ages, it becomes easier too to say, yes, I feel, I feel. So which is it, harder or easier, or neither, or both? For who, and for whom, and for who? This was a love story. She met him at the end of her life and died not in his arms. That is how it used to happen. It doesn't happen like that today. But watching the path that he walked to reach her, she could almost see him when it happened. Love invites truth. It invites the profound. But this isn't what it is. This isn't it. This isn't love. It's too easy to conflate love with truth, with the profound. Love is something different, though we hope it's here, somewhere in this story, this narrative, this place. Because of what else would we do this? Of where else would this come? What have we titled this place, the home to these words, to other words, to some small piece of some small person's time, some group of persons laboring individually apart, mostly and without the time, or the time machine, or the space machine, to be all there forever, as in our infant stages we wish to live, one supposes. Pre-pregnancy, pre-birth, here's the pain. The small things that take you from now to now, the small things that you enjoy, the short bicycle ride, the butterfly, the cat on your lap, whatever it is. This is of what we try to speak. All titles are really of one. Life is but an exploded nexus of being unimaginable, and so is love.
What happens if you go click on forever again? You come to the top of this page.
Forever. You don't know books unless you know pals. Okay, that's not the slogan, but whatever. That's something my English teacher in high school used to tell me when he'd get me high in the teacher's lounge. All the English teachers were stoners in that high school. What do you want? I learned from potheads. At least they knew books. So anyway, when things get stressful at home, I hop in an airplane and head north. That's what I do. I go to Portland and eat $3 spicy mac and cheese at Bistro Montage, and I drink Rainier Pounders, and then I shoot pool with the staff until Powell's opens like 9 in the morning. I don't know what time the place opened. Who cares? This was a special occasion anyway. Dirk and Scott and William were there. They didn't tell anybody. This was a stealth reading. I know because I'm Frank. People need to realize that about me. I know because I'm Frank. Yeah, okay, strike that last line. I was just saying that. I thought maybe it would mean something, but it doesn't. That's a problem, isn't it? Here's my character. Let me draw myself. Sort of not as tall as William, who's taller than me. Sort of not as balding as Scott. He's got more forehead than me and it burns easily. Sort of not as charismatic as Dirk. That guy leads cults. What do you want? My eyes are bloodshot. Even my therapist says so. Nose hairs stick out of my nose. I got armpit rash and I'm always itching them. When I walk, it's kind of a shuffle. My beard is what you might call full if I had one, and I don't. But in its place, I got tons of nicks and cuts and band-aids. Whoa, that's an overstatement. About the nicks and cuts, that's hyperbole, that's exaggeration. My skin is fine like a bottom. That's bullshit too, I can't help it. Hold up a mirror, what do you see? What do you see in your mirror? Okay, back to the story. It was to be a stealth reading. I don't know if they'd been to Portland or not, who cares? They were back, or they were there for the first time, and I got connections. I know a guy who owns dogs. I know a student union, and I know for a fact it's got couches, and I know for a double fact it's okay if they slept there. Say if they spent all their money on wine or whatever they spent all their money on. I know other people too. I know a guy who lives in a house and a guy who owns a house, and women, I know some women. I know a woman who owns a house, and I know an old lady. Why'd they want me at this stealth reading? I know them, who knows? Portland's a real pretty city. Do you want me to ramble or tell what happened? What happened is this: we took acid, we took mushrooms, we took whatever. It was somebody's stuff in somebody's bag, we didn't care. It was warm, real warm. We parked at some place in Selwood and hiked down the railroad tracks and picked bunches of blackberries and put them in huge containers and set some little sticks we had on fire and drank beer and ate berries and extemporized. William has the transcripts. He took copious notes. A train rolled by, and that interrupted things, and it got dark slowly in increments that lasted forever. Somebody took out a ukulele. Maybe this was William. He stopped taking notes and played songs. People joined us, a bunch of hipsters from Reed College. They had nice voices and sang songs and then disappeared. Maybe they went to a party. Giant animals came and cuddled with each one of us. We went off in separate directions. Another train passed and stopped and parked in our driveway, and a mariachi band disembarked, played for us Canción de Mexico, handed us fortune cookies, then rode off in their train. The blackberries did a dance. The darkness split into pieces, fragmented entirely. We fell asleep like dominoes, and every one of us was double five. We woke up, and the sun was way up in the sky, high up. We were late for the reading. The reading wasn't at Powell's. I hope you didn't think it was. Powell's is just this great, huge bookstore, and we spent $300 or $400 each there. Either before or after the reading, I don't remember. Just say we browsed for hours and bought like we were starving and left with bags too heavy to carry. We had to hire porters. This was actually why the reading was a stealth reading. We need a tax write-off to get to Powell's and buy books. It's not sexy, it's not hip, but that's the way it was. We had a solid reason to be there. We went and we bought books. All this only need be mentioned. You don't need to see it happening. The stacks are high at Powell's. If you were to see us there, it might bore you. We stood and thumbed through new books. We stood and thumbed through old books. We smelled books. We drank coffee. We went from the purple room to the blue room to the pink room. That's what we did. It lasted forever. I can't remember if it happened earlier or later in the narrative. It doesn't matter, I tell you. Now about the reading. That's why we're here, fictionally and otherwise. This was a reading. It took place on about 3 on a sweaty day. The day wasn't sweating. We were. Roses were in bloom not far from us. We were under the Burnside Bridge. A bunch of punks were skateboarding. We didn't have an audience at the start. The Columbia flowed behind us, its salmon dying. Dirk took the stage first. He read silently without moving his lips for about 40 minutes. It was beautiful. Scott read next. He played an air guitar and not so much read as recited Kafka's letter to his father. I don't know why he picked that one. His eyes were closed the whole time. The sounds of the skateboarders began to slow at some point during the recitation. I took the stage next. I did hopscotch routines I've been working on. This wasn't poetry. This wasn't fiction. Or was it? I thought of it as movement. I hopscotched. I sang a poem I created in the shower one afternoon in San Francisco. This was a short song, a line or two. I can't remember what it was now. But people clapped when it ended. There was a breeze. William took the stage next. When I say stage, I don't mean stage. I mean concrete. This wasn't a stage. Somebody handed me a cigarette, which I didn't want. I took a lemon drop from my pocket instead. William read. He read a long poem he'd written backwards. Then he read it side to side. Then he read it upside down. All the skateboarders by now were clapping in rhythm to his poem. When he started to read the poem upside down, William began to do a strange dance. He'd shuffle 3 steps to his left and shuffle 3 steps to his right. Then he'd do it again. Then he'd throw his arms up in the air and look up as if searching for God in a bridge. Then he'd shuffle 3 steps forward, and then he'd shuffle 3 steps backwards. Then he'd throw his arms to the ground as if coaxing a mint plant to sprout. All this time, he'd read his poem upside down. Not a lot of people knew about this reading. It was a secret reading. When it was concluded, we drove out to the barbecue joint I know on 82nd Street named Chicken, hot and spicy. Then we went to Bagby Hot Springs to soak in the water and come clean. Whew. Frank's long-winded.
Come in, choose one.
A poem, a sweaty day. This humidity is one of the less pleasing aspects of Cincinnati, which is otherwise, according to many accounts, a fairly nice place in a Midwestern weather sort of way.
Cincinnati.
Sure.
Cincinnati. The name speaks of modern Gothic architecture rearing up on the hills built on mounds of the bones of Native Americans. Her taxis weave through the city's nightlife, her charm and sparkle. She is a city with a firm handshake, but bad eye contact. 7 hills, flying pigs, grease and laughter and pockets everywhere, pockets too deep for the mind to process, of time and division. Appalachia and Harriet Beecher Stowe and the Ku Klux Klan and Citizens for Decent Literature, the center of it all removed from it, time wrapped in the bottle, the 1950s wax seal affixed. We will go to the Serpentine Wall this afternoon, though we are too old to drink Boone's Farm. Cincinnati, how did they name you? And why did people then stay here?
Decent literature.
Right.
300 pages of stuff we had written. Fiction, poetry, drama, essays, the majority of it good. William had provided an oil painting for the cover. The copyright page was hysterical. Frankly, the Unknown had a lot going for it before we began the tour. We had finally persuaded Krass-Muller to give us a blurb, and that blurb graced our back cover. And we had to consider the William S. Burroughs blurb an even greater coup, given the fact that he was dead at the time he wrote it. Have I mentioned our psychic? The first round of book signings was an outrageous blast, underlined ellipses. Megan? What'd you say?
So now it was the three of us driving to Seattle, our book tour. We had seen an opportunity and we had made it ours. We had built a literature, crammed it into a van, and we were heading for the Rockies. Laptop in lap, writing our third Unknown anthology, our anthology of travel memoirs, written on the tour of the first two books, The Unknown Anthology and Criticism of the Unknown, a book of essays written by us about our first book. Technological advances had cut out the middleman between writer and readers, in effect eliminating the whole publishing industry. We were a celebration of that, and we were in a van looking for a campground. I was in the back asleep, dreaming of our fourth Unknown anthology, The Unknown Cookbook. But there had been a flat tire. I sat up and stared at an American landscape we had not yet named as the car wobbled to rest beside the road. Dirk had been driving while Scott typed. I had fallen asleep in the middle of a hallucination and was unsure what was. Where are we? I asked. I don't know, said Dirk. I know, said Scott, typing, but he wouldn't tell us. I climbed out of the back of the car and looked around. I realized that the tire needed to be changed and that the three of us, collectively, being academic professionals, not to mention the hope of America, working together with the blaze of charisma and virtuosity that had so captivated our reading public, didn't know how to change a tire. And the irony of this, it seemed then, against that mountainscape, invited us to drink and to write volumes. So on that deserted road with that sunset and that flat tire, we took turns writing on Scott's laptop. And we wrote so well that nobody would ever again need Homer. Or so we thought right then. We felt free in our America, unchained land potential, slaves to no one were we. We loved our country right then, though that did not preclude the South from rising again.
Academic professionals.
This is a joke, obviously. A recent MLA study, when cleverly reinterpreted for subtextual codings by expert deconstructionists, revealed that there are no longer, nor for the conceivable future, will there be tenure-track jobs in anything involving language in English. A committee has been formed to study the potential effects of these findings and will report at the next association meeting this December. Ever again was.
What?
No.
Joe?
Yeah.
Oh, then. Oh, let's switch out to another one.
How about study or was?
What's the matter with the joke?
We read
We
that
read
one.
it out already. You could have to another one.
Yeah, I know, but reach first.
Now's as good a time as any to acknowledge our collective debt to Samuel Beckett.
I haven't been there.
He's not a place. Beckett was in fact the greatest writer of the 20th century.
You say was. Do you mean he's dead?
Not really. I made that up, by the way, what you just said. Dirk?
I'll be there in a minute. I've just got 2 more pages. The younger Dirk says. I have to agree with Scott above, without a doubt, the greatest of this century, and I attempt this hubris acknowledging my total inability to compare Beckett's work to the work of writers who use a language other than English. That is, if Beckett is not the greatest writer of this century, then he should be. Always judgment gives way to love. Or again, it should. In the face of Beckett's accomplishment, there can be only one response, it seems to me. Silence. A solemn silence. punctuated by those joys still allowed by the flesh's continued ignorance of its own superfluousness.
What the fuck was that? Anyway, Beckett's really good. Really, really good. Read books by Samuel Beckett, like at least the trilogy, and Godot, and Endgame, and Krapp's Last Tape, then some of the shorter plays.
It's full of pages.
Oh, we keep getting, the lighter links are places we've been.
Pick another link, please.
Superfluousness.
Terry Gilliam wants to film the hypertext. Francis Ford Coppola wants in on the project. And James Cameron just sent in a large bid. I don't know, William. I think we should go with Gilliam. Because I really like Time Bandits in Brazil. And he's got a good sense of surreality, so he could play up the Dada element. On the other hand, Cameron is a nut on verisimilitude. So we could count on an in-depth treatment and no bullshit from the producers. And then there's always Coppola, who, let's face it, is pretty much king out here. William, there is media, and I are confused. Pull out of the coma, so you can help us decide.
William?
What?
William?
Go, William.
You want to read this, Dirk?
Okay. William, who had, according to all appearances, been just as or even more excited than any of the rest of us about the prospects of seeing our hypertext brought to the screen as a major studio release, did not, in fact, take well to the atmosphere of Los Angeles. There is a lot of work involved in moving a film from the concept to the can, most of it social work. There are producers to meet, backers to pitch, directors to choose, stars to select, and or woo. The difficulties we encountered as a result of the groundswell of interest in Dirk's cult activities were to be expected, but I had expected better from William. We were all a little apprehensive about moving from the psychic atmosphere described by one critic as Midwestern literary evangelism and another as techno-pastoral to one that could be only described as bedding down with Satan. The devil wears 1,000 guises in Hollywood, but such are the costs of seeing a dream to its full fruition.
Film was a medium which none of us could even begin to understand, but we knew that it had been the art form of the 20th century. While we have our understanding of collaboration, in Tinseltown, collaboration takes on an altogether different pallor. It is the stuff of bitter feuds and power struggles, of profit margins and compromises. It is a messy, twisted business that can drain the soul of a writer. It's just like Speed the Plow. Frank and I loved it. We found ourselves in this element and found that we were surprisingly good at manipulating it. Money was being thrown at us from a million different directions and choices had to be made. Not that money was, at this point in our careers, much of an issue. We could have all lived comfortably, given our modest tastes, with the exception of Dirk, for years, just on the money we had made from the sales of our anthology. What we wanted was bigger than money. We wanted artistic control, which is worth far more than any bundle of cash.
Those first couple of weeks in LA were hairy. So many pretenders at every turn. Every night there was a different party that Marla told me was absolutely critical for me to attend. William went only to the first couple, a rather large affair hosted by the DreamWorks people and a wonderful day out at Coppola's ranch. Then William virtually disappeared, leaving Frank and I with the primary schmoozing duties. Dirk was, of course, attending parties of his own, hosted by celebrity members of the faithful, Tom Cruise, Simon LeBlanc, Tito Jackson, Clint Eastwood, people like that. But film was the furthest thing from their minds. They were hung up on theology.
I was worried about William, and I told Marla so. He had become mean and withdrawn. He abused waiters, waitresses, and stewardesses with a regularity that we had come to expect only from Dirk, who had become accustomed to being a living messiah with great expectations and a lot of, quote, needs, unquote. I had not heard from William for nearly a week and a half when I had Marla track him down via credit card receipts, which disturbed me. It looks as if he was having fun, but not the kind of fun you'd expect from William. To wit,
$2,250, Idlewealth Speedway, San Luis Obispo. 1 day of high-performance automobile track time.
$1,500, swim with the fishes, aquatic adventures, Oakland. Scuba diving with killer sharks in the shadow of the Golden Gate Bridge.
$2,000, Snowy Joe's Dry Cleaning, Compton. Most likely a purchase of cocaine and/or crystal meth, or, highly improbable, stain removal from 142 dress shirts, as billed.
$1,555, fly-by-night skydiving, Sonora, California. 2 midnight jumps, unassisted, from a turboprop at 3,500 feet.
$2,033, Trinity River rafting, 3-day whitewater rafting expedition in the Northern California, solo.
$3,555, Stunt Power Institute, a week-long course of stunt man study that included safely falling from a great height, through broken glass without losing your ass, running amid explosions, and the doctor is out, stitching your own wounds.
I asked Marla to have the credit card company give me a call the next time anything popped up, and they did. And that is how I witnessed Williams' near-fatal coma-inducing bungee jumping accident in the Sierra Nevadas at the Royal Gorge. It brings me pain, even to think about it now.
We usually limit our readings of the hypertext, since it has no end, to half an hour, which gives us about time for one more page. So pick this next one carefully. Someone say Marla?
It was never easy to manage their raw talent. It would have been far easier to manage a raw squid. Talent is always difficult, and they had a lot of that and that. They were erratic. They were a challenge. They were intellectuals. They were dynamic, and they excited me.
I wanted to spread that excitement. That is what I do. Most of my clients before the unknown wrote genre fiction, romance, mystery, suspense. I'm a commercial person, and if you say what I do is shallow, I won't argue too vociferously. I'm about buzz, making good buzz, not always for good books, not always for books that I myself would read. This is the career that I have chosen. I'll never change the world, but I know what makes a great headline. I know how to get reviews. I know how to place an artist anywhere from a shishi cocktail party to a university symposium. I can get you in the Village Voice. I can get you interviewed. I can get you a reading at a multiplicity of bookstores. I know how to bend the right ears. I'm good at what I do. I work the phones. I work the phones.
I have a BA from Vassar with a double major in English and advertising. I like Victorian novels, how they take their time to fulfill a long, slow arc, how they create a world from manners, how they turn the position of governess from a menial occupation to one that is heroic. I ride the streams of media, which shift from hour to hour. My Rolodex is voluminous. My friends say that I'm a fun drunk when I drink, which I do on Saturday nights. I swing dance and I samba. I'm not very good at dancing, but I do it anyway and I have a blast. I'm single, but I'm not lonely. The last time I had sex, I wasn't making love. He was a financial whiz kid who worked for Citibank. It had been months and he told a good joke. He was cynical, but was a decent lover. I wasn't in love with him, but we had a few decent dates. I'm not looking for permanence. I don't think I'll meet Mr. Right, not in New York. None of that matters to me right now. I have a niece named Alyssa, and I take her to the movies every Tuesday night. I took her to see Titanic 3 times, and I'll admit, I cried the first 2 times.
I worked for an agency I won't mention here before I set off on my own. I was tired of all the assignments they gave me, mass market dross. I set off on my own and I took several of their best clients with me. Dick Thrush, author of the Nick Cabin Clown Detective series. Selena Warble, author of the M is for Murder, L is for Love series. And Helena Cartwright, author of the Wide River, Long Lost Love Pastoral Romance series. I was paying $1,200 a month for a studio apartment on the Upper East Side, and my ends were barely meeting.
I was feeling kind of lonely and slightly desperate financially when I ran across the hypertext of the unknown. It was different and exciting. I thought the balding one was pretty cute. And let me confess, let me be up front, it smelled like money, real money. And more than that, it smelled like art. Can I describe to you how good those 2 things smell together? I can't, so I won't. But it's like a hot fudge sundae on a hot July afternoon after a good workout and a warm bath with your favorite moisturizing bath beads.
I was extremely interested in what they were doing, and so I approached them, and they were approachable. What's more, they needed me. They really needed someone like me. They liked me, and I liked them. They were disorganized, barely in control. They had too many ideas and not enough time, so I made their arrangements. I magnified them. I broadcast them. I got them readings and interviews and appointments and shows. I made love to one of them once. It was a breach of professionalism, but so what? It was discreet. It was a wonderful night in Trump Tower that I'll never mention or forget. Silk sheets and a magnificent view. Room service with coca, fan, strawberries and champagne, and laughter.
New York is a big city. I take long walks at night at Central Park. The boys, I call them that, the boys, they call me on the cell phone, sometimes while I'm out walking. I tell them where to go and what to do, and they appreciate that. They are bigger than either they or I ever thought they could become. There was a hole in my life, and they filled it. I've got more clients than I can handle now, and I just got a new assistant. I hear 20 different languages every time I walk down the street. I eat 30 different types of cuisine. I often bump into old friends from Brooklyn, or from prep school, or from Vassar, and most of them have become different, like we all do. Sometimes I get lonely, but not often. This is my life, and I'm living it in New York City.